Okay, 108 days out from the meet, max effort deadlift day. And if you guys don't remember or didn't watch last week's deadlift vlog, I'm gonna put on the screen what happened last week. Because it's in my head a little bit. Like, it feels pretty good right now just warming up and walking around, but big goal for today is to make sure that we get through the session well without pissing her off even more. And as far as rehabbing strains go, like, I got a pretty damn good handle on it at this point in my career, jammed on a bunch of rehab work through the week, made sure we were touching appropriately on Saturday squat session, and like I was saying, walking around now, it feels pretty damn good, and I'm not super worried about it, but I still need to make sure that I am aware of it. So plan A is be aware of it on the early warm-ups, and if it feels good to go, well, we freaking send it as original plan. Plan B, if it doesn't feel great on those early warm-ups, we're still going to try to be aware of it and make the call for an appropriate pivot before we catch another little bit of a snaggle. And what I'm thinking right now is pivot plan B, plan A, is going to be to put the bar up on a block, run a block pull, make the positioning a little bit less hamstring length dependent, and see how that does. And well, if that does good, we'll do that. And pivot plan C, really hopeful that we won't need to go to a pivot plan to, can't even talk right now, but really hopeful that we're not going to have to go to a pivot plan C at this rate. And if you're wondering why I'm putting knee sleeves on for deadlift day, well, gotta get the kind of speed squats in first. Because one of my solutions to the common complaint that Conjugate for raw powerlifting does not have enough deadlifts in the original split is I run my max effort work a little bit more in the pocket than true max effort, like not trying to grind at either of the lower body lifts, so that I can sustain a heavy squat and heavy deadlift every single week. So in the Conjugate for raw split that I most often run, speed squats go with max effort deadlifts, max effort squats go with speed deadlifts. But personally, I don't really program myself speed deadlifts very often unless I really need some extra technique touching, because being built like a meatball, I don't tend to get a lot out of them. Because if a lifter isn't super well levered for a lift, they tend to have a huge leverage fall off at their sticking point. So if we get that guy doing speed work, they tend to just be able to wiffle ball through the range of motion they need to be contracting through. So in that case, I'd rather have them run an extra RE slot dedicated to building weak point, and that makes up for the lack of speed work if they're not well levered for it. And the other circumstance where I'd rather be doing more of a RE intent than a DE intent is if someone is trying to build back tissue tolerance or control through range of motion, which I'm doing right now for my bench, but today's not bench day, so I'm gonna shut up and try to move this bar fairly well. And I have been running more tempos in this slot. I think I'm gonna speed the eccentric tempo up a little bit and see if I can maintain relative control compared to last week. Feels good. The other thing I'm doing that's a little bit weird today is I'm going to be running 3 5s instead of 8 2s or 5 3s. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I'm the only person running speed work here today, and I want the mono hooks pulled. I don't want to make someone, have to stand by the mono for 5 minutes while I'm doing my speed set. So I can do a set, Miana can do some warm-up shit, and then she'll come back and pull the hooks or something. Like, we're still going to be running rest periods fairly tight, but I'd rather be less of a pain in the ass for everyone I'm training with right now. Because, like, it sucks for her if she always has to come over and line me up and run the mono hooks every 30 seconds. So I don't want her getting frustrated. I don't want me getting frustrated having to wait. So the 3 5s is a adequate compromise. Woo!
Marriage is all about compromise, right?
Yeah.
Oh, your glutes felt very hard there.
Glutes are growing. Reverse hyper's working. And stepping her up a little bit from last week, so going 345 work sets. And the other thing I'm telling myself right now is the real advantage of running for 5s, other than not being a pain in the ass, is that 5 reps versus 2 or 3, like, I'm spending more time locked into my brace. And since the brace is something that I'm struggling with, I want to be able to maintain it better for longer. you know? So let's find that low ab pull into the bar, really crank the bar into my upper back, and make these feel spiffy. Yeah, I was a little rushed in the last one. In case you didn't hear me out of there, I needed to pull with my fupa harder than that last rep, so we'll do better on the next one. And what I mean with that cue is I'm really trying to use my low abs to pull pelvis up to lock that brace in. That was freaking it. Holy. And getting that done 100% starts with the pick, because if I can think about using my abs to pull my hips from the bar, it just sets up the whole squat to be so much better. So, gonna do our best to keep her going for this last set. And I gotta say, very glad that I pushed cardio very hard yesterday, because I'm feeling actually half decently in shape for the amount of weight gain I've had recently. Yeah, that's good enough. So I'm gonna rip the shoes and sleeves off, and then it's time to pull. And the other thing I'm gonna be aware of today, aside from that hamstring, is with the body weight increase, gotta make sure I'm pulling in that start position well enough, so we'll be making sure to put effort in on that front. But before I worry too much about that, I guess we gotta find out if we're even gonna be able to deadlift today. I mean, we're definitely good for at least 3 plates. What I'm thinking off of that is if I can force myself to trust it a little bit more, commit a little bit harder to the wedge, get better quad drive, should feel even better on the ham. So we're going to do that here. Yeah, that was the trick. Going for. And as of now, a little bit optimistic that we'll be able to stick with plan A for the day. So we're gonna crank hard into this one, commit to that wedge, and if it goes well, like, we should be good to go for plan A. Yeah, plan A it is. And because plan A ideally involves beating what we did last week, gonna take a couple smaller jumps so we can take a jump that exceeds last week. Also, to be clear, I am feeling the hamstring a little bit, but it kind of reminds me of the Saturday squat day, where it's definitely not getting worse as we're going up, and it's probably actually getting better as we're going up, so hopefully that trend continues. That means we're gonna do our best to smack this one so we can keep it going. Had my belt a hole too tight, I think, and that kind of fucked the wedge, but felt good enough, so we'll loosen the belt and take another one. Changing body weights is a pain in the ass both directions, but I mean, pulling that okay with the kind of jacked up wedge and 0 hamstring feels, am very happy with that, so we gotta screw up less on the next one. And plan A is gonna be smacking the shit out of this so we can go up. Plan B is gonna be pulling it just okay and then being okay with that for today. Plan C involves missing it because the hamstring hurts, so we're not going to talk about plan C. So we're going to do our best to make sure plan A happens. And I think what will give me the highest likelihood of being able to execute on plan A is put on some fun music and remembering that powerlifting is supposed to be fun. Making sure the belt is adequately loose is going to help with plan A as well.
That's good though.
Yeah,
What are you thinking?
I don't know. I think I'm pissed how it fucking moved. I hate this so much, but I'm not thrilled with how that moved. And like, I am very happy because being able to pull after the hammy pop last week, like, it feels good. What doesn't feel good is I'm missing a little bit of like that leg press assertiveness off of the ground. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop her down for the down set, but instead of just doing deadlifts, I'm gonna run some Boris pulls here to see if I can refine that leg press type skill. I'll admit it, making these calls is never fun, but if we can wrap our heads around autoregulation so we recognize when it is and is not appropriate to take another jump, we are going to make better progress in the long haul, even if that means we are holding back on a given day. And one of the big benefits of the team is because we're able to go so in depth on the conversations we're having, we can help you understand when it is and is not worth taking another jump, as well as understanding how to pivot your secondary based on how your main movement of the day goes. And because of conversations like this, it's letting Isaiah go 9 for 9, 2 meets in a row, making perfect calls on the day, because meet attempt selection is fundamentally autoregulation, and the better we can learn to do it in training, the better we're going to be able to show on the platform. So if you're sick of being burnt out in training, having bad meet days, hit link below, join the team, because I want to help you become the best lifter you can be. Because I'd like to think that I could go up and make that leg drive up initiation better, but I also need to recognize that after having a setback last week, number one priority right now needs to be not having another setback. And I know that running the Borises as the slot right here will at least let me move forward with what I need. And if I can do that, next week should be more betterer. And because Boris pulls absolutely suck, plan here is a triple instead of the AMRAPy AMRAP. And with how terrible that was probably the right call. With that last one sucking, goal here is to do less sucky. I think that one was at least a little bit better. Still shittier than I would love it to be, but we're at least a little bit more assertive on the leg press, so calling it a win. And I mean, not that the top set of pulls wasn't a win. Like, I am definitely a little bit cheesed with loading as well as how it moved, but considering last week's stiff leg hamstring misadventure, pretty okay with that. And for the sake of not having another misadventure, not going to be keeping the hips as high this week. Also starting at 2 plates, and the goal is to just make it smooth and feel good today so we can, not have another setback. and wasn't sketchy enough to stop, but felt it there the most that I felt it on anything I've done so far. So I think the smart call going to be leaving it there, doing another slow, squeezy, high rep set, and we should be good to push it a little bit better next week. And you know what? Fuck it. We're going to at least put 315 on this sucker here today. Only goal here is to not look too stupid for putting on the bar. Oh wait, it's 315. I already look stupid for having this on the bar as a work set. So, yeah. And that's enough back pump for that set. But it felt less ham questionable than the 265, so I'm at least okay with it. And I mean, it's not so much a back pump as it is like a gigantic upper glute pump that's bleeding into my back, which probably isn't a bad thing considering like I'm trying to work glutes with that execution. But it is so intense that I'm almost hopeful that the pit shark is being used again. Update, pit shark being used by a bunch of high school kids again. So thankfully, the leg press that kind of sucks because it's so heavy is always open because it's so heavy. And because this thing is so heavy, we're gonna keep her relatively light again like last week and drive reps decently high. This thing is so freaking terribly heavy to use. And I don't care what all the nerds say about higher reps, lighter weight pushed hard being more fatiguing than heavier weight for lower reps being pushed hard, because I know that when I crank big weights on a compound movement, it smashes me way more than lighter stuff. And I don't know if that is just because all the fatigue nerds aren't actually strong or not, but we're keeping the reps higher just so we're not as smashed for Saturday squats. So let's dig in to round two. Plus, high reps are just fun. And this guy is open, so we're gonna embrace really nice big flat squeeze here. Handles loose again, so making sure we fix it before we start pulling. Gotta drop the seat. There we go. There's the magic. The glutes are still very blown up, and I can feel it here. FYI. But I'm okay with this, so we'll run one more. And on the last vlog, somebody in the comments accused me of doing everything at RP 5 or less, but the thing is I know how I miss reps. I've trained to absolute failure enough that I know what the last rep I can get clean is, and I'm just not trying to do any questionable reps so we can keep quality relatively high. But like that one, I went to a rep that was not able to be pulled, and like the point I'm trying to make is with how I miss, like the bar moves really well until it just doesn't go, and going to that point on a barbell lift like isn't that wise because I don't want to get in the habit of missing. So Kapner, where it still looks like it's moving well, like trust me, it's going to stop moving well very soon, so I'll shut up and do my next set here. But yeah, it's like it's going that I just can't pull, so adequate effort. And what I'm thinking is, oh, gotta slide it back. Heel shoes taking up more space, but what I'm thinking is when I was over in the other side of the gym, like all 5 of the leg curls were being used, so we're gonna get a little adventurous with the hamstring slot and see if we can tolerate a glute ham raise decently well. Cautious on the first one. I think gotta slide the foot plate back a little bit again, but feeling doable. I think it'd be wise to not add load, but I'm okay with this. So yeah, we'll slide the foot plate back. I really should just pull the heeled shoes off, but then I'd have to walk back over to my gym bag, and I don't want to do that. Now this feels like it might be too far, but whatever. I'm happy with that. And like, yeah, it could be a little bit stricter, a little bit better, but trying to avoid making the hammy feels nasty, so acceptable quality for now. And I mean, I'll see if I can make them a little bit better this set, but no promises. That was close to full extension. And like, can tell that it's there, but again, not sketchy, so happy with that, and we should be able to do a little bit better next week. Now, because we didn't get to do it last week with the hammy tweak, I am gonna run the GHR sit-ups here today. And because I didn't do these last week, I should probably raise the foot pad up. That's a little too low. as I was saying, because I didn't do these last week, starting off body weight just to be sure that things aren't sketchy. I gotta kick the fucking shoes off. Hold on. Feet are not gonna fit this way. But because I didn't do these last week, starting body weight, just to make sure it doesn't feel sketchy. Doesn't feel too sketchy, but I can tell that position feels a little bit exposed. I think some of that might be the fact that I'm heavier too. Now we're gonna grab the shoes for set 2, because it felt like I was gonna slip right out of there. And grabbing a little bit of load for set 2 now that we got the shoes on. Not gonna go pull over loading because I don't wanna overexpose that position, since it does feel a little bit sketchy with the previous abdominal tearing. So we'll ease in, start low in the chest, bring up a little higher. And that's plenty spicy for today. Yeah, that was fun. And maybe this is me trying to be hyper optimistic, but even if I am unhappy with loading on the top set of deadlifts, I'm still counting it as a win just because we were able to deadlift after last week's hamstring pop. And last week, like, I knew that I could be good in a week. I just didn't know if I could be good in a week, you know? And the fact that I was good enough to at least do halfway decent today, like, I gotta count that as a win. I gotta pat myself on the back for getting back from that as quickly as possible. And now that this week went well, like, all we gotta do is make next week a little bit better. And I know off of this week going well, not having any sort of other setbacks, we're going to be able to pull that off. And the big thing that I'm always trying to preach in the team is that it doesn't matter what you do on a given day. It matters whether or not you're setting yourself up to progress. And last week, I screwed up on that with the stiff leg, the way that I ran them and the loading that I used. And this week, number one goal was to just make sure we got through the session with nothing weird happening, getting some productive work in. And I think the fact that I made the call on the Boris pivot as secondary, it ended up being pretty unproductive because we got some of that leg press back. And I think that if we can do a better job of being more assertive and finding at the beginning, I think part of it too is on those initial warm-ups being that little bit hesitant kind of screwed me over a little bit in terms of timing for that. So we just got to trust it more next week. And the fact that we showed ourselves that we can trust it today should make next week better. So we're going to keep on rolling, keep on building. And what I really need to remember is at this point last year, coming off of part 1 of the cut, I missed like 595, 270 kilos, like 3 weeks in a row deadlifting. And I still pulled 754 on the platform, and we are so far ahead of that. So all I got to do right now is just make sure that we're not setting ourselves back, not overcooking, not doing something that we shouldn't do, and we are going to be able to build. And the fact that I'm here right now, like, I'm excited because I know that there is a lot of improvement that still can be found. So right now, it's just a matter of continuing to find that improvement. So that's what I got for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out. Have a good night, and I will see you in the team.